In this video, we're going to take a look at changing the layout of a table in Word 2016. So to do that, I've got some sample tables here that we can play with. I'll probably just use the first one. And I need to have the table menu or ribbon visible up here on the top, and that doesn't show up until you click in a table. So let's click in a table here. And now we've got our table tools, and there's a design tab, which I've done another video on, and this is, we're going to look at the layout tab. The layout tab has to do with changing the structure of your table. So inserting rows and columns, merging, things like that, changing height and width. And the design has more to do with how your table looks, so colors and borders and shading and stuff like that. So we're going to look at the layout tab, and we're not going to look at anything over here in this first little group. That stuff is pretty basic. We're also not going to draw a table or use the eraser. We'll start with the delete button right here. So if you click on the down arrow next to delete, you can delete cells. So whatever cells you have selected before you start, you can delete columns, you can delete rows, you can delete the entire table. So let's go here and let's move over in the margin here, and come on, let's select a few rows, and then let's go to our layout tab, and let's go to delete, and let's do delete rows, and those 3 rows are gone. Let's undo that. And obviously you can do the same thing with the column and columns, and you can also delete individual cells, but I don't know how often you'd really want to do that. Let's go in here and select 2 cells here and go to delete and choose delete cells. And see, then you got to take the ones that are below it and shift them up, or take the ones that are to the right and shift them left, or you've also got some options here for deleting the entire row or the entire column. This is probably going to kind of mess up your table unless your table was messed up in the first place and you're trying to fix it. So I'm not going to go ahead. Well, I'll go ahead and do it. And see it move that stuff over. Now I got a table with nothing here, and let's undo that to get our table back the way it was before. So I don't think you're going to use that very often. Also, you might think, let's take the mouse here and drag it through all of the rows in the table. You might think, because this works with almost everything else in Word, that if you select the entire table and hit the delete key, which I'm going to do right now, that it would delete the table, but it does not. It just deletes the contents of the cells. I'm going to do a Control Z to bring that stuff back. So if you want to delete the entire table, go to delete here and choose delete table, and that gets rid of the data and it gets rid of all of the table cells. Let's undo that and bring it back. Okay, then we've got some options here for inserting rows above or below. So let's say that I want to insert a row above this first row here. Just click on insert above and I get a new line. Let's go down here to the bottom row and let's do an insert below, and it inserts a new line down below. I can do the same thing on the left or the right if I want to insert new columns. Okay, I've got some options here for merging cells, and you know, sometimes you want to have, especially like if you're doing a title or something like that. So I'm going to select all 4 of these cells here, and I'm going to do a merge, and now they just get merged into one. That's comparable to a command in Excel. And then we're just going to put in a little title here, my budget. And after we do that, then we're going to go to our Home tab, and let's do the title style for that. And let's also go to the alignment here, and let's center my budget. Okay. And then down here, let's just put the word totals. And so that's how you can merge cells. You can also you can split them apart. So if I go here and choose split cells, the default is to split it into 2. I'll go ahead and do that, and I get something like this. Let's undo that, and let's choose split cells again, and let's do 4 and click on OK. And now this was too big because of the size that I made it, so but it does make all the cells the same column, same width as the column that they're in. Let's undo that one as well. Okay, now we've got an option here to split a table, and this one does not seem to work to me the way that it should. So let's say that I want a split here, and I want everything. I'm going to put in a few blank lines here down below too, because they may come in handy. So let's say I'm in the utilities row here, and I want to have two tables now, one with food and rent and then one with everything else. So if I put the cursor in this row and I go to my layout tab up here and I click on split table, I don't think that's the way it's supposed to work, but that's the way that it works for me. So it split the table, but it didn't push the bottom part down. And I want you to notice something. If I click up here in my budget, there's the table selector uh, button or icon or whatever you want to call it. And if I click down here, there's another one. So I do have two tables. And if you want to select a table, that is the place where you have to click. So let's click on that and let's drag it down a ways here. And it did split my table for me, but it did not, you know, make it like this, which is what I think it should have done in the first place. And I don't know if that's a bug in Word or what the deal is, but I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to work that way. I think you're supposed to end up probably with one blank line in between. And let me see. So that may be a bug in Word. It may just be you know, some problem with the way that I created my data in the first place. I think the normal way that it's supposed to work, though, is like this. So I hope it works better for you. We've got an auto fit option here. We'll just try the options here. Auto fit contents, and I was in this table down here, so it makes them pretty narrow. I think your table ends up looking kind of cluttered if you do that, so you may not want to use that one very often. We've got auto fit to the window. We can set a fix. If I pick that, nothing really happens because I'm already as wide as the window. Let's go, and the other one is fixed column width, and it'll make them all the same column width. That really didn't change much. They're already a fixed column width. There's, I think, an easier way to do this stuff. If you want to change the column widths, I think the easiest way is to go up here, and you see these little boxes. It looks like they're maybe about 4 dots by 4 dots or something like that, but they're little square icons that are made up of little dots. And if you click and drag, you can adjust the width of a column. Okay, we will undo those. And for some reason, my bottom table, it was sneaking up on me when I was doing that, so I'll just put a few paragraph marks in there to push it down. And since I'm not in the table anymore, I lost my table tools. Let's go back up here to layout, and we can also specify the height and width of a row or a column. So right here I'm in row 1, so right now it's 13 hundredths, about 1/8 of an inch. Let me increase that. It goes up by tenths, and so you can set the height to whatever you want. Let's undo those. Okay. And you can also set the width of a column or columns. So if I want to select the width of an individual column, you can select the column like that with the fat black arrow pointing down, or you can just put the cursor in there, and if I want that column to be a little bit narrower than it is, we'll go down by tenths of an inch. And of course you can select the entire table and select the same height for every cell in the table. Let's do 0.3, and for the width we'll do 1.2, and tab out of there. And now that worked, but for some reason the numbers aren't showing up. Let's click down here, and now they show up. I don't know why they don't show up right after you do that. We've got an option here to distribute rows or distribute columns, and the only way this really makes much sense is if you have rows that are different heights. Let's do distribute rows here, and it will take the existing space from the top line here down to the bottom line here, and it will take that and it'll divide it by 4. So my table won't take up any more space, but each row will be exactly the same size. So that's a quick way to kind of make your table look a little bit neater. And the same thing applies with columns here. So if I move this column all the way over, to the right here and then do distribute columns, it'll take the width here divided by 4, and I should have pretty much the same widths that I have on my table up here. So let's do distribute columns, and there you go. Okay, now in the alignment group here, before we do this, I want to make this first row here a little bit taller, actually a lot taller. And actually, before I can go any further here, I've got to fix one thing. I've got this center aligned right now, and so I need to make it left aligned. And then we can go back to the layout tab, and we've got 9 options. So we've got 9 positions. We've got the upper left corner, middle, right, and then in the center we've got left, middle, right, and at the bottom we got left, middle, right. So we got 9 positions, and you can just click on them here, and as you cycle through them, you can see the different options for positioning stuff within the table cell. So let's go back to the middle here. Actually, let's go to middle top, and then I'm going to take my row here and I'm going to drag it up, and so that takes us through these 9 alignment options. Word is also, I was a little hasty there. Let's make this a little bigger. Word is also able to rotate text in a table. The other way to rotate text is in a text box, which we have another video on. But I'm going to click on this once. There is no drop down, so it just cycles through the choices. So if I click on it once, it rotates it right, and you can see the way it rotates up here in the icon. If I do it again, it rotates left, and if I do it another time, there is no upside down option. It goes back to right side up. So we've got 3 options for that. We've got cell margins here. And right now, actually, let's go down to the bottom table down here, and let's select the whole thing by clicking on the little 4-headed arrow up here. And let's go to our cell margins. And this goes up in very small amounts. It goes by hundredths of an inch. I'm going to add like 2/10 of an inch margin up on the top and click on OK. And you'll see the margin is the white space. And I have more white space on the top of each row now than I did before, and that is because of what I did with the top margin. If I do the same thing down here on the bottom margin, we went way too far on that. Let's just make it 0.3 and click on OK. Now I've got more space on the bottom, and the gray just covers the actual text. Let me undo a couple of those things here. Okay, and so now we're back, and we've got an option to sort. Okay, and actually I'm going to delete no, I'm not. Okay, the next option is sort, and we go down here to one of our tables that still has all of the 6 rows in it, and I don't want that other one hanging around, so we'll just put another paragraph in there. So this is what my table looks like, and you do have the ability, let's click in it so we get our table tools, and you do have the ability to sort on a column. So I'm going to click on sort here, and this is a little bit like it is in Excel. And if I sort on column 1, I'll get them in alphabetical order. If I sort on column, let's do column 2, and or the budget column. It said column 1 because there was no name. And I want to sort by number using paragraphs. There are no paragraph marks here, so basically each item is its own paragraph. And let's do descending order, and let's click on OK. And rent should be at the top, and then food and miscellaneous and utilities at the bottom. So let's click on OK. And rent, food, miscellaneous, and utilities at the bottom, and the numbers are in order. And these numbers also got moved around so that everything on the row is still goes along with the same label that's over here on the left side. So you can do some sorting. If you have a really long table, you can tell it to repeat the header rows. These are way too short for that, but if you just do repeat header rows, whatever this is will appear at the top of the next table if it goes over to another row. You can also convert it back into text. We'll save that for last. And you can also do a formula. One other way to change the structure of your table is to go to the last cell in the table and hit the tab key once. And if you do, then you get one more row. And if you need another row, go to the last cell in that row and just continue to hit tab as many times as you need to get as many rows as you need. Let's go to the bottom of this column, right, the budget column right here, and let's put in a formula. And the only formula we're going to look at is the sum formula. And it says sum everything above. Okay, well, everything above is these numbers right here. We've got some options for formatting we're not going to worry about. Just click on OK. And it tells me if I add those numbers up, I get 1,370. And if you do it by hand, you can see that it really is 1,370. Before we go and convert to text, and you could do that at the bottom of the other columns too. One thing though, if I change this to 30, then that should increase this by 10. It should increase my total by 10, but the total is not increased by 10. This only gets evaluated at the time that you insert it, or if you select that and right click on it and tell it you want to update the field, then it will redo the calculation. So you need to remember that if you make any changes. So probably the smartest thing to do is make sure you've got all your numbers in here as final before you go and do a total. Now one last thing before we convert to text. These numbers here, they're all left aligned, and I just grabbed a little too much. I went too far with my mouse. So let's select those numbers in that column right there. And notice this turns a dark gray to indicate that you didn't type it in. That's a formula. This is probably a place where you might want to put in a decimal tab. Okay, now a right tab would actually work the same here because we don't have any decimal points or decimal places. But here is my decimal tab, the upside down T with a decimal point next to it. And I want that decimal point, let's say, to be about right there. So I'm going to click there. And you do not have to put in a tab character with Word 2016. I think that's new in Word 2016. Previously, if you inserted that, you'd have to go to the beginning of the line here, and you'd have to insert a tab character. Now, if you press the tab key in a table in Word, it just takes you to the next cell. Okay, I'm pressing tab now. It's just taking me to the next cell. If you want to insert a tab character, you have to do Control Tab. I'm going to hold the Control key down and press Tab. And what it does is it pushes this over to, I'm not sure exactly where it's pushing it to. It looks like the next default tab stop. I'm guessing the distance from here to here is probably ½ an inch. If I do another Control Tab, let's see what happens if it goes another ½ an inch. So if you don't have tab stops set up here and you just press Control Tab, that'll insert a tab character for you. And I think in previous versions of Word, you pretty much had to do that. Word 2016 is smart enough to know that if you select a bunch of cells and then you click on the tab, that you basically, what it does is it doesn't actually put the tab character in there because there is no tab character, but it gives you the same result as if you had put a tab character at the beginning, and it'll line everything up underneath that decimal tab right there. So, and the last thing we're going to do then is we're going to convert that to text. If you click on Convert to Text, it'll ask you, what do you want to put in there to separate the columns? And by default, it will put tabs in. And if you click on OK, there's my data with tabs instead of table cells. So I lose my table menu or my table tab up here because I'm no longer in a table. But I can get that back by going to a table and clicking in someplace inside the table. So that pretty much covers almost everything. We skipped a few simple things over here on the left, but it pretty much covers the layout tab for the table tools.